All right, how familiar are you guys with NFTs and like crypto in general?
4 out of 10.
3 out of 5.
0
so
out of
6 out of 10.
0 out of 0.
All right, so I guess I'll just like, for people that don't know anything really, I'll just do like a very basic overview of like, okay. So I just put this together like really quickly, but basically, you can think of like blockchains and like public ledgers or like stuff like Ethereum and Bitcoin as like a shared hard drive that everyone can publicly read and access. But you can't delete information, you can only add information. And so essentially that's what they are. It's just like a shared data layer between everyone. And that has like the following characteristics. It's immutable, meaning you can't change it. Like once you've written something to the blockchain, it's there. It's censorship resistant. So it means that anyone can submit any, append anything to this shared hard drive, between everyone. And it's publicly readable and verifiable. And the way you add stuff is through what's called the public-private key pair. And it's essentially, just think of that as like a username password. So the username is your public identifier and your password is the thing you use yourself. And so what you do in like, for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum is you have essentially an account and then a password, and then you can add stuff to the ledger or to this shared hard drive by paying a certain amount of either Bitcoin or Ethereum, and you also need your username and password. And that's kind of how you add stuff to this shared hard drive between everyone. And then the state of the hard drive of this data layer is decided via some sort of consensus thing. You don't really need to worry about that. But essentially this shared hard drive, all it usually has, in the case of Bitcoin, for example, is like just a ledger that records the balances of people. So like in Bitcoin's case, right, it's very simple. It can only transfer, Bitcoin from one person to another. That's all it does. And so you have a ledger with, every username, every account, and it has a course. Well, it doesn't really have for simplicity's sake, you can just imagine a list of usernames and like their balances. But the thing that Ethereum does is it kind of makes it so that you can add any kind of data essentially to the blockchain, not just a transaction that moves money from one place to another. You can add what are called non-fungible tokens. And so these things are essentially, instead of Bitcoin, which is like fungible, meaning that one Bitcoin is perfectly identical with another Bitcoin, a non-fungible, and you can divide a Bitcoin. A non-fungible token is essentially just a token that contains certain metadata or information and is unique. And you can track where this non-fungible token kind of exists on the blockchain, because because this blockchain or this shared hard drive, everyone can read it and see it. And so if you own a non-fungible token, everyone can verify that you actually own it. So kind of when you look at specifically art, what is the purpose of non-fungible tokens when it comes to art? The problem with digital art is that it's the marginal cost to copy, a piece of artwork is 0, right? And so you don't actually get, the original, the genuine, piece for, some sort of digital art or song, right? There's just copies, and, you've got some concept, and then you get various instantiations of that concept, when you play your phone or when you open up, a piece of art on your phone, it's just a copy of it. And there's really no sense of what is the original, right? Especially if it's like, a digital art that was created first and foremost on a computer, because it's all it is just information, and information can be copied. So kind of the whole idea of NFTs are let's introduce some desirable physical characteristics, right? Namely scarcity, or like this idea of uniqueness, but apply that to digital items, or to digital art. So like, for example, you've got the Mona Lisa, and there is a genuine and real original Mona Lisa. But if you compare that to a song that, let's say, a really modern artist makes, there's no real genuine audio MP3 file. Is it the one that they upload to Spotify? Is it the one that they exported? Or, there's no real sense of genuineness or scarcity. And so the thing that NFTs do is they essentially are representations of the original, and they allow for digital art to have scarcity. And the cool thing then is that digital artists can sell their art and essentially make a profit, or make money. And art collectors simultaneously can collect digital art and know for sure that what they have is the original, and that what they have is scarce. No one else can have it. But that kind of gets to like the heart of the matter, and I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about this, is what does it mean to actually own an NFT? What does that entitle you to? And I think a lot of the confusion arises out of the misuse and misunderstanding of what the ownership means. So like, you can think of ownership as just like a relation between an object and a person, right? And the object can be really a concept, it could be an actual physical thing, or it could be just information. But there's two kinds of ownership that I think are really critically need to be like separated, right? So if you got traditional ownership, which is kind of what you normally think of, right? If you've got a patent for some sort of intellectual property, this is a form of traditional ownership. And notably, it's distinguished by the fact that it's enforced through government, right? So like, if you've got a patent for some sort of new invention, or you've made an art piece and someone is illegally reproducing and selling your stuff, the government can, on your behalf, through the legal system, will force the counterparty who's violating your rights to pay up. And your ownership status is also verified through the legal system. But NFTs kind of work through a different way, different kind of concept of ownership. I would call like cryptographic, where you kind of are guaranteed these rights to an NFT through like cryptographic means. So like the public-private key pair, which is essentially just a username and password. And so this kind of, you cryptographically own an NFT, but that does not necessarily mean that you own the intellectual property of an NFT. It may be the case that that is so, but the only thing that you are guaranteed of when you own an NFT is the token itself, not necessarily what it may represent. And I'll kind of illustrate, and I'll give examples to kind of make this point more clear in just a sec, or right here. So like, NFTs, the cryptographic ownership of this non-fungible token on the blockchain, right? It can represent a number of different things. So in one context, right, in digital art, right, in pictures and stuff, very often also owning the NFT also gives you exclusive intellectual property rights over the thing that you bought. So if I bought, a digital NFT that represents a painting, along with that, the artist signs off their rights to that painting. But this is not necessarily, but this is generally how it's done. But in other contexts, right, in video games where NFTs are quite common, they don't represent any intellectual rights, but simply the ability to buy and sell the good or do whatever. But you don't actually get the ability to sell. Like, for example, if you've got a CSGO skin, or an Overwatch skin, or any game, right, where you have an in-app purchase, just because you purchase it doesn't entitle you to the likeness of what you purchased or the actual skin itself. All it allows you to do is use it in a game and perhaps buy and sell it. And so this is kind of the idea with NFTs in the realm of video games or entertainment. Let's say there's an NFT for the ticket to a Mavs game, right? It it doesn't give you any intellectual property rights or physical rights, but it does give you a specific, it represents and can be redeemable for an actual physical ticket. So there is no ubiquitous, when people say, you own an NFT, that doesn't necessarily mean you own, the intellectual property of the artist, or of the painting or the song. But it also could mean that. And so this kind of makes things confusing, and people are often asking, well, like, why don't I just, copy the JPEG of, an NFT I buy? Well, the reason why is because like even though, like, let's say I buy an NFT, an art NFT that gives me exclusive intellectual rights, well, then like that gives me the exclusive right to monetize and use that, thing for commercial purposes. And so sometimes owning an NFT does give you that kind of like profitability, but other times not. And it really depends on the case. And so you've kind of got to be careful. Non-fungible tokens are a very general catch-all term. And so they can represent a number of different things. This is kind of like overly complicated. I'm not going to really spend too much time on this, but this is just kind of like how if the blue thing is like the object, and then like in traditional things, you like sign some sort of legal document, certificate of authenticity, and then the legal system will enforce your exclusive right, or it could be intellectual property. But with NFTs, you've got cryptographic ownership, so you own the NFT, and the NFT represents, or is just a sign for ownership. And so it's like, there's various other models. All right, does anyone have any questions before I go into like the actual demo?
Could you show the graphs again?
Yeah, sure. So this is like the traditional, and then this is like perhaps this is like for example, NFTs in the context of art maybe is how it might work, right? But like in the case of games, the exact nature of this ownership relationship could be different, right? Because like ownership of what, right? The intellectual property, or just the ability to buy and sell the object. Yeah. Does that make sense? And I think like it'll become more clear if we go into like actual examples.
Yes.
All right.
Professor Dougherty.
So I guess we can just start with like a quick demo of like how you might, for example, upload an NFT as like an artist, right? So there's a site Rarible, and they make it really easy to upload. You don't need to know how to code or anything, especially for these like pretty elementary, like JPEG type NFTs.
Screen.
Yeah, give me a sec. And then so let's see. So is my VPN on? No, it's not. Okay. So let's see. So if we go to like Rarible is like a site where you can, as an artist or a creator, create NFTs, and then people can bid on them. Now the thing about NFTs is by nature, the actual website, or like there's essentially two layers, right? There's the actual blockchain, right, which is essentially platform agnostic or website agnostic. So if I create an NFT on this website, I can look at it, observe it, and even sell it on a different website. And the website is just a means of interacting with what I own on the blockchain. So if I open my account here, so these are like, this is my account right here on the blockchain, okay? And this is like a way of viewing my account. When I upload something, through Rarible, it's not uploaded to their private servers, it's uploaded to this shared public, data layer, right? And so just to reiterate, right, what you're uploading is not constrained to the website. The website may die, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year down the line, but your NFT, that you upload will continue to exist in the form, of this, on the blockchain. So let me just, quickly go through a demo though. So if I create, let's say, start from scratch, you just choose essentially a JPEG or anything you want really. And then you can add open for bids, fixed price, timed auction. You can even put no price and then just have it for yourself. And you can, the cool thing about NFTs is, again, as they're not constrained by a site, you can essentially do whatever you want with them. But let's say I were to upload this, just call it that. And then I'm not going to actually create it because it costs a little bit of money to create, because interacting with the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain costs money, because there's like a computational cost associated with uploading things. And so that computational cost is, given to the user. Okay, let's see. Let's do 1 ETH. But if I were to create this item, I have like my web wallet right here. This is essentially a way of interacting with the blockchain. And then I would click confirm here, and you can see it's like $27 right now. And this price changes, right? I think like in the future it'll be a lot cheaper as like Ethereum, scales more. But I'd click confirm, and then essentially it would be uploaded to the blockchain, and then you would be able to bid on it and sell it. The biggest, I would say, site for bidding on NFTs is OpenSea, and this is specifically digital NFTs, right? Again, there are many kinds of NFTs. There are game NFTs like Axie Infinity, which is essentially a game where the assets in the game, it's kind of like a Pokemon clone, but the assets in the game, the Pokemons actually have real world value that can be, traded, and you can do whatever you want with them. And they kind of fetch decently high values, especially if like you get like to the really rare ones, right? Because it's like 7,000 or whatever. But going back to just digital art, because I think that's what you guys are most interested in. If I like, probably one of the most like exclusive and most expensive ones are like the original like NFTs, like the NFTs that kind of were the first to exist and kind of were the first to get popular. Like let me find one. CryptoPunks are an example, right? And these things fetch really high value. So this is measured in ETH. So you just times this by like $2,000. And that's kind of the price. So like 21,000 is, let's see, it's $50,000. So yeah, this shit's really expensive. And so yeah, so like it's kind of mind-boggling. A lot of the valuations are mind-boggling, especially as an outsider. And I guess what you have to kind of consider is a lot of the people collecting these things are early crypto investors who essentially have a shit ton of cash. And so it's kind of like almost like the Renaissance, where you've got these patrons who will buy and spend, just a shit ton of money essentially to flex on other people. And there's like a whole Twitter scene associated, and they will, in order to flex on other people, they'll buy really expensive art, they'll use it as their profile, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially, to really catch a high valuation, you kind of want to be in tune with like what these big investors or people with a lot of money really find to be, fascinating or interesting or in vogue at that time. But I wouldn't limit yourself to, what's trending, but because like NFTs are such a big thing now that I think they're kind of like going outside of just the crypto community. They're kind of becoming a much more broad thing. So like, for example, Twitter has their NFT sale. there's lots of artists doing NFTs. And so really you can pretty much, you've also got like Top Shot, which is more for like collectibles. I think like the key thing you've got to remember is that like it's a really nascent space and it's really new. And if you've got the ability to kind of like program and also you've got an artistic inclination, you can make a shit ton of money. I haven't really gotten involved in it because I'm lazy, but like it is something that like, if this kind of thing interests you, you can, I would say, make a living out of it if you're pretty good. But yeah, I don't know.
So how are you so sure that it's so possible to make a living out of this if you say you yourself haven't engaged much in it?
Well, I'm not like 100% sure. I mean, like this, here's the thing, like when when I say it's possible, but it's by no means like easy, right? I think like I don't know. It's a really new space, and I think that if you were to get your foot in the door now, the industry's only going to grow. And that's all I mean kind of when I say like you can make a living out of this is I think like there's a vast amount of opportunities in the space, just simply because it's so new. And so there's no real like hierarchy you have to climb. You do kind of have to like it's a lot about knowing people and stuff like that, but it's by no means easy, but I do think like there are a lot of artists, who, and I think it's just like art in general, right? There are a lot of artists who make a living, but also perhaps some that don't. I do think that like there's a very slim amount of people who I don't have the coding ability, right, myself. But if you do possess like the coding ability and you can make like algorithmically generated art, there are so few people who can do that, but also have like the artistic talent to make it look nice, that they're, oftentimes they can, make a lot of money. But like, I don't know the exact statistics, and like, I would highly suggest doing your own research, but it's definitely like very possible. It is within the realm of possibility. But I'm not exactly sure. And like, I'm not as interested in the, NFTs for art myself. It's interesting, but like I'm like I'm interested in other crypto stuff, but like I think like NFTs, if you're like especially interested in art, could be something to look for and like invest in from a skill set perspective, because like in the future it could pay a lot of dividends. Yeah.
What's your main interest in crypto then? I mean, I know you've talked about like the societal and
Oh yeah, well, like I really like right now I've been interested in like decentralized finance, like DAOs, which are essentially just like uh organizations that are just a collection of users on the blockchain that are just connected, via the internet and vote on things. But like, yeah, I would say like decentralized finance is like what I've been getting into a lot recently. And there is an interesting intersection of, let me see if I can pull up something right here. There's like this project, for example, which essentially financializes and combines like DeFi aspects with, I would say like with popular NFTs, and there are like decentralized finance programs, protocols for borrowing and lending. And so one of the interesting things that like something like NFTX does is like it allows you to essentially take an NFT and borrow against it, borrow US dollars against it, for example. But like this is kind of like really niche, and I don't know, I don't think there's really a big future for that. The fields are pretty separate, but for me, for my personal interest is like decentralized finance, because I think like finance is like the heart of like what happens in like from a political perspective and a social perspective, and it yeah, but that's neither here nor there.
Do you have any examples
Mm-hmm.
of
like art that you think utilizes the NFT technology in like a unique way, where it's not just, oh, you're selling like a JPEG of something that you made, but like
Yeah.
they kind of combine their art with the fact that it's an NFT.
I mean, yeah, I can give you, there's a couple of them, right? Where essentially they use algorithms within, I think like the hard part is like yeah, okay. I mean, like, to give you a specific example, right? There's like algorithms and specific things within Ethereum, blockchain. You can upload specific code, right? And so they will have like, for example, NFTs that are essentially just generated, and the logic is embedded in the blockchain for the production of the image, but there's any interpretation of the image that one can take. And so there's no like, it's kind of like art that doesn't have like, so it's like a, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it essentially there's code, right? And there are a number of people who, buy and sell these different variants of this logic as it's carried out with various characteristics. And then you can build your own separate kind of like web layer or like website that interprets the code as uploaded into a visual thing. And so like there are specific kinds of NFTs that, although they're, scarce, they also have various forms and various like interpretations or like actual JPEGs associated. So what you're buying is like essentially the algorithm or the code that generates it. And that code can be presented in a number of different ways, in a number of different JPEGs or images. But that, I mean, like, yeah, I think like if you're looking for like something that truly changes how you actually do art, you're not going to really find it. I think like what this kind of solves from a digital art perspective is the ability to like essentially sell your art, your digital art, and kind of get past the middleman. I think like this is kind of the interesting thing is where you may have like platforms today, right, where you can upload your NFT as an artist and find the counterparty. But a lot of these things, if the website goes down, you're screwed. And the art really has no longevity. But with this, essentially the very earliest NFTs will continue to exist in perpetuity, because there'll always be someone who's willing to, upload and have a copy of the Ethereum blockchain. And so like you essentially can really have something that is, from a platform perspective, I would say, agnostic or credibly neutral. It doesn't, it will continue to exist forever. Or I won't say forever, but like at least the next 50 years. And, it can't be really accessed or changed by anyone else. And so, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you have examples of like the kind of self-generative NFTs?
Yeah, let me see if I can remember. I actually bought one a while back. But this was on this is a long time ago. Let's see. Let me see if I can remember. Oh, I think I uploaded actually. Let me see if I can find it. I sent it in the inspiration. Let me see. It was in the Discord at some point. Yeah, here we go. So these, oops. I believe these are NFTs, and this is just like, if I go back. So this is a particular instance. And so it essentially is just code that you buy. And this is a particular, web interpretation. And off, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Oh, no one said anything. Yeah, like this is, I would say, like one particular instance of this. I think like there are others. I would kind of have to, again, do more research because I'm not as well versed in the scene. But there are all kinds of like new things that people are experimenting with. The kind of crucial thing you have to consider is like the less of like just a regular JPEG it is, or like if it's like some sort of algorithmically determined thing, it fetches or like creative with how the art is actually given, right? So whether it be code with specific attributes or like characters with specific attributes, if it's just a JPEG and like some metadata, usually people don't get too excited. But if you've got something like programmatically created, usually it gets a lot more interest and people are kind of more interested in it. But if you want to like explore that kind of stuff, again, go to like OpenSea, and that's kind of like the biggest site to like bid on stuff and like check out like what's kind of trending in the scene. Let's see.
So that one you showed us.
Yeah.
Was that the first work that guy had uploaded, or was he like building a repertoire beforehand?
Let's see here.
So I'm curious, like the ones that go big, like what were they doing before?
Serious. This is his bio right here. Oh wait, no, this is just the interesting thing is a lot of these people they're not necessarily, they can be established artists, right? There are a lot of people who are established artists, have a social media following, right? Whether it be on Instagram, Twitter, and then they go into NFTs. But there's also a lot of, should I say, crypto native people who started out, and they may just be like programmers who had like an artistic interest. And because they were there early and because they had an interest early, that's how they were able to kind of build their following. So a lot of it is like the way you build your kind of cachet is through social media. I mean, this is pretty on par with like other stuff, but let's see.
I'm curious if he has like a gallery. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What's his oldest stuff?
Is this, I don't think this is, these are all different artists. I'm pretty sure this is like these are different specific collections. At least this site is. Let me see if I can find the original artist for this other one.
Raven Kwok.
You are, oh yeah, Raven Kwok. See if he's on Twitter. All right, yeah, so this is like, okay.
Oh.
This person's a film director.
Yeah.
Before there anything else. It's crazy.
Wow.
There was.
Oh, they went to RPI. What the hell?
There was a artist that I once met over Instagram when I was getting really into Touch Designer and all the algorithmic stuff. And this person's, I don't know where she's from, but she was just kind of like she's one of those like really friendly people trying to network everywhere. And then also doing code-based art. And she got super deep into the NFT space and like now has a whole Forbes article written about her.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, I think Forbes named her the highest selling female NFT artist. If you search up IX shells, like
IX.
Oh, like Roman numeral 9, like IX dot shells.
Roman. Oh.
Like the letter IX.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then shells.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Her Instagram page is very like generative art with foundation.
Oh wait, let's go to her. Oh yeah, shit. So how did she get into the space? Do you know?
Honestly, don't know. I just know that one day I found or I saw the post that she was like selling NFTs.
Nice.
Yeah, and then just kept growing,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like getting in super early, and then it is all like generative stuff. She's super into the coding thing.
Yeah.
What were you about to show us before?
Nothing in particular. I don't remember.
Like different kinds of NFT art.
Yeah, yeah. I guess let me see. So there's like okay, so there's like what's kind of cool, I would say, in the future is there's this like concept of like a metaverse, right? I don't know if you guys have heard of this. Essentially like this digital, social world, right? That's going to be essentially augmented by VR and AR and all these other things. But the idea is like within this universe, there's going to be this like, I'm sure you guys have heard like Second Life, right? But the problem with Second Life was that like it was run by one company, and if the company and the users went down, all your shit on Second Life would essentially go away. So the idea with like the metaverse is like, what if we were build this like layer where we can socially interact with people, and whether it be through VR or not VR, but at the same time have items and your assets of the character in this world be on the blockchain, and so they essentially always stay with you, and the various interpretations or should I say like VR applications or like metaverse like things would essentially take your blockchain assets, right, and use that and represent that in the 3D world. And so I think like where the future is going to be is you're going to have a number of different digital assets that are essentially associated with your account. And when you go into like, this VR world, they're going to come with you. These assets are going to come with you, and you're going to be able to sell and buy them. And they're essentially going to become, right? This world is essentially just going to become like the real world. And, it's kind of crazy to think about, but it's kind of like, if you were to take the Matrix, right? And like, what would, the items in the Matrix somehow have to have value, or, they can't just be digitally reproduced. And so the idea is like, and they can't, be just controlled by one entity, because if the entity were to go down, then you're screwed. Like you essentially lose your items, right? If you play EV Online and your shit, and the creator of EV Online goes down, then your ships lose all their value. But if you've got like a very thriving metaverse ecosystem, where you've got your digital assets on there, and this is like the entire idea and like thesis behind like, digital real estate. I think it's really stupid at this stage. But I do think like plausibly within the next 5 years, when VR becomes much cheaper and people are more used to like interacting socially through VR, there's going to be a real demand for, digital scarcity that's not mediated by a centralized party. And so I think like this is where NFTs are going to play a huge role. And, kind of like skins in a video game, you're going to be able to buy and sell these digital assets in the VR world, in the metaverse.
Don't you feel like there's like a natural conflict there? Because VR getting cheaper is very much being motivated by a central authority. If VR was decentralized, it wouldn't be getting cheaper right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
that's like the hardware aspect. I specifically mean like the applications. And the idea is like you will have applications that build off of your NFTs that you own, right? So let's say you own like I don't know, like some sort of like you know, it could be like a skin or a character, it could be an item. And this, you know, I honestly don't know where the hell this is going, right? But the idea is like the application layer will be, you know, it could or could not be decentralized. It could be provided by a centralized source, but what they pull in terms of digital assets is from what you own on the blockchain. And so they're easily portable, and you can move from one application to the other and still have like simultaneously one identity in between each, and one, you know, the same assets between each. And so like you don't necessarily have to like in each ecosystem is not going to be closed off, you know, a closed world onto itself. It's going to be, they're going to share certain characteristics. And if you buy one thing from one, you know, VR experience or application, it's going to be transferable to another. Now, this is just the idea, and I don't know how close to, you know, reality this is going to be. But I do think like there is a demand and a need, at least from the asset perspective, and maybe not the application or the hardware perspective, that, you know, blockchain can play a role in. But yeah.
What is real life?
Yeah. And then like these like Decentraland crypto, I don't think they're going to exist in the next 5 years. They're going to get replaced by, you know, better, more powerful stuff. But I do think the idea is like very powerful, and is gonna, it's gonna be like what's that one movie with the, it's based off a book. It's directed by Steven Spielberg. Yeah, Ready Player One, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the issue of that, you know, Ready Player One and that entire game is the items, right, were essentially controlled by a centralized source. But if you were to consider, right, like an open source way of talking and interacting with your items, right, and then maybe like even having like an open source way of interacting VR, it would be much less dystopian, I feel like, and much closer to like reality in terms of like the power dynamics. Because like if you were to like, you know, if you were to engage in like, you know, if you RuneScape or something, right, the developers can essentially like control the items. And from a VR perspective, let's say you were to enter in this like fake VR RuneScape, like you're not gonna, there's no sense of permanence, because at any second, like the whole thing could come crashing down. And if instead, like if you were to just have like an open source protocol or standard by which, you know, VR application, or you know, the application doesn't even have to be open source, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just reiterating the same thing, but yeah, the ability to create digital scarcity that that is not confined to one specific source, and is kind of very public in nature, and you can prove it to anyone outside of one company, or, you know, one government or geographical area, I think is kind of like the really interesting thing.